AEW Dynamite Grand Slam going down tonight. Big match with Bryan Danielson. That boy, what am I going to call him now?
You can't say Bry D. That doesn't sound as good.
Boy, Bryan. Yeah, I don't know. We're just going to Bryan Danielson.
You can still say D Bryan. I mean, it's or D Bryan. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
No, Bryan D.
Bryan D. That boy Bryan D.
That boy Bryan D. Yeah, taking on Kenny Omega. Yeah, that's kind of like I wouldn't call it an indie dream match because these guys are on the mainstream right now, man. This is a match that is, one of these dream matches. Kenny Omega versus Daniel Bryan. WWE versus AEW, WWE versus Japan. This is one of those type of deals, even though Bryan Danielson is all elite now. This is a match that people have been wanting to see for a long time. This is like, like watching, Ricochet back in the day match up with one of these guys when it was going to be one of these explosive matches, and it's going to be something that perhaps may be one of those memory moments, that you look back on and say, man, I remember where I was when those guys were in the ring doing it. And that's what this is what I appreciate about this game. We got Kenny Omega, we got Bryan Danielson, and we know exactly what those guys could do in the ring, okay, from a performance standpoint. And a lot of people are highly anticipating watching the Shakespeare, the Romeo and Juliet, the Phantom of the Opera, see as far how far these guys can actually draw you in. That's going to be the beauty of this thing. The caliber, no doubt, is going to be very, very high. But just wondering, man, what are we going to see? That's the thing right there. I know a lot of people are highly anticipating on, and the thing is, they're anticipating on watching it from a realistic perspective. It's almost like, what we were just talking about with Canelo Alvarez and Plant. It got a real feel to it because we have not seen these guys in the ring against each other. At least I haven't. I'm sure they've probably done some stuff before back in the day on the indies, whatever. But from a mainstream perspective, this is like a heavyweight fight. And it's got only buildup is, man, I cannot wait to see exactly what's going to happen. It has nothing else, for me is in play other than, man, the performance. As far as making it as real as I possibly can feel. That's what I want to feel in this match. And that's what I'm feeling right now, just thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, they wrestled one time before in 2009, but it was before Kenny Omega was Kenny Omega, right? We've always wanted to see Sting and Undertaker, and I think they wrestled one time on WCW Saturday Night with Mean Mark Callis and Surfer Sting, right? So it's like it happened, but it didn't really happen, right?
Yeah.
This tonight is the first time we're going to get to see it really happen, and it's going to be in front of, I believe, a crowd of 20,000 people, Arthur Ashe Stadium, which has never run a wrestling show before, but they do all those world tennis tournaments there. And I think I was talking to Kevin Bernhardt, our reality wrestling director, and he brought up an excellent point. A tennis stadium is really set up for a wrestling show, right? Because you have full coverage around. Everyone's used to focusing on this one centralized area.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be awesome. I mean, some of the pictures I've seen look great, but to have Bryan Danielson in what is going to be his first match of this magnitude with this many people in there since the main event of WrestleMania, he's going to have to bring it. I heard him say, though, don't expect the same Daniel Bryan style in AEW. He said, I had to adapt my style to fit WWE when I signed there. He said, now I'm not there to wrestle their style. I'm going to wrestle the American Dragon style from back in the day. So that really excites me to see if we see a different side of Daniel Bryan.
You know what is
Bryan Danielson? I'll get it one day.
Yeah. What it's gonna feel like is, I could be wrong, but I think it's gonna feel like one of these Japanese strong style matches.
Could be.
And I think I've always said, could that style of wrestling work here in the States? Well, we got two people tonight in Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega to put that test to the theory. As far as a bunch of this is awesome, a bunch of Daniel Bryan as well. Excuse me, that Bryan Danielson, as well as a bunch of Omega, because that's what I always felt when I watched that Japanese crowd. Man, they were always, man, this is awesome. You know what I mean? They really embraced the fight, the battle between the two warriors. Just I don't know if it's because that samurai mentality of the Japanese warrior, but those fans over there, they love wrestling so much, man. I mean, they bleed professional wrestling, and they make you feel a certain way. When you do it, they give everything to you, and for these guys, Omega, Danielson, to be in front of 20,000, they're gonna go out there, and for Daniel Bryan to be talking about he's bringing the American Dragon style back. I told Daniel Bryan, man, you need to slow it down, but that's a guy that ain't about to slow it down no time soon. He's definitely gonna pump it up and take it to the next level. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what happened, man. I know the world, of wrestling. The wrestling world is looking forward to seeing, two guys go out and wrestle at the highest level. Looking forward to seeing, two guys go out and wrestle at the highest level. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've always been a Bryan Danielson fan, really, since he came into the WWE. If you didn't read his article, everybody, in the Players Tribune, where he kind of bid farewell to WWE before his first match outside of that company in nearly a decade, go read it. Go out of your way to read it. It was very nice. It was very thoughtful. Daniel Bryan has always been a class act in my mind, right? I mean, I even remember when we were at SmackDown, they had a house show for SmackDown, and we were getting interviews for our for the old show, and Daniel Bryan was there, and you're like, hey Bryan, can you do an interview? And he was like, oh, Book, I got to go do my stretches, my little workout routine, this and that in the ring.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'll be honest with you, in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's his way of saying no. I'm not going to do it, right? But he's like, after I'm done, I'll come back. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Sure enough, man of his word, about 30 minutes later, comes back. You say, hey, you got about 10 minutes for the segment? And he was like, yeah, I got 10 minutes. We went 40 minutes, with Bryan Danielson. And so to me, that just really showed a lot about the man's character in that moment. Like, I said I was going to do this. I'm going to come, and I'm not only going to do what you asked of me, I'm going to go above and beyond. Yeah. I think that's true in his wrestling style. He does what's asked of him, but he goes above and beyond, and he's just a class act all the way around. So I'm excited to see him in front of those 20,000. And what a card, though, for night one. Do you know the full card for tonight?
No, I just know a couple of matches. Who we got?
So here's the full card that we know is going to go down tonight. We have Darby Allin and Sting versus FTR, formerly the Revival, right? That's a big match right there. We also have MJF, who you call the best promo in the world right now, taking on Brian Pillman Jr. That should be good. Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes, the returning Cody Rhodes. And the co-main event of the evening is the women's world title on the line, Britt Baker versus the debuting Ruby Soho. That's a stacked show. That's a pay-per-view card on free television. Make no mistake.
Man, can't say nothing bad about it. And what I like also is the spontaneity of, we haven't seen these guys work a whole lot. They're going to be matches that you got interest in just because you're wondering what's going to happen. As well as you're wondering, how's the chemistry going to be between these two guys? How far are they going to take it? That's what I used to be wondering when I was in that WCW locker room watching WWF. I used to always be wondering, man, what are these guys going to do tonight? Just because the matches were so intriguing. They would go out there and throw everything out, on the show. Like I say, they would be moving the furniture around. Guys would be, getting power drived on the stairs. Somebody would be bleeding. And it felt, there again, it felt like it was real to me from a perspective to where I was going, Man, I wish I was over there doing it with those guys. And I'm in the WCW locker room. Yeah, I think the momentum with AEW right now is the mixture of the roster and the guys going out there and working with each other, and it's a moment. Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, Punk, Hobbs, and the thing with Hobbs, I give that kid a whole lot of credit because Powerhouse Hobbs, man, that kid used to be at damn near every WWE show. Okay, he would be outside. He would have his bag with him. He was just looking for a chance, just looking for a shot. And he would always come and talk to me, man. He would catch me coming into the arena. You know, just about. I mean, not every arena, but so many of them. If we was in his area, he would be there, and he would catch me. And he was like, "Man, I'm trying to get in, man. I talked to such and such. I talked to such," but he just couldn't get a break. And now I watch this kid, man. I look at that smile on his face, even when he's whooping somebody's ass. He looks happy to just be a part of it, man. So I give that kid a lot of props, man, for just sticking in there and finding a place in the business.
Yeah, no, and now he's going to be wrestling CM Punk on CM Punk's first televised match since 2013 or whatever.
I'm gonna tell you, I know Hobbs right now is ecstatic because 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, I was talking to that kid walking into the arena, and he was just trying to get a break.
Wow.
And that's the true story right there, guys. Stick around, guys. You're in the Hall of Fame. We'll be back in a minute.